All right, let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner. John Rothstein here on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. Later in this show, we'll be joined by Texas A&M head coach Bucky McMillan. Want you to hit the subscribe button right now. Also want to remind you that an official name for this venture is coming in the next couple of weeks. Our fingers are crossed. You will also be able to find all of your audio needs for this podcast on Spotify as we continue to churn out content for you, the college basketball fan, 52 weeks out of the calendar year. And I got to tell you, before we get to what's on my mind in the college basketball world, I had a little bit of a revelation. I had a thought. So many people get into dialogue and conversation about wanting to go on vacation. So many people want to have conversations about trying to retire early. After going away with my family the last couple of weeks, I have to tell you, I yearn for the microphone. I yearn for the opportunity to talk and break down college basketball. And one thing I don't yearn for is more days with my daughter, who I love dearly, but without daycare. Because I wanted to know during the NCAA tournament what Brad Brownell and Clemson were feeling when they were taking on Will Wade and McNeese in the round of 64, and I got a dose. People wonder why certain people might have a little bit more to drink when they enter parenthood. I now know, because a couple of weeks away with my family, who I love dearly, and with my 21-month-old daughter, you feel like right now you were in a 5-12 game and you're down by double digits at the half. I cannot wait to get back to my normal surroundings. Nothing has changed with obviously my day-to-day with working, with trying to procure information, with getting shows ready for you guys. But everybody says they want to retire early. Not me. I would love to continue being in front of a camera, being behind the microphone, giving you my takes. And I by no means want to be in a situation where I don't want my kid to go to school, because that is a 5-12 game and there's nowhere to run. There is zero way to run when you're dealing with that. The people who have 3, 4, 5 kids deserve medals. Medals. How do you get through the days? How do you deal with things if the museums are closed? If it rains and you can't go to the park? I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how. But we soldier on, and we get back to the world of college basketball. And now, let's get to 3 big things. I am going to start with a salute to Dan Hurley, UConn's national championship coach, who will one day be in the Hall of Fame. Because Dan Hurley has raised the bar at UConn, and not just by the on-court product that the Huskies have displayed during his tenure. UConn is a program that has won 6 national championships during the last 26 years. And with all that said, the Huskies, going back all the way to the heyday of Jim Calhoun in the 90s and the 2000s, have never played a non-conference schedule like the one they are going to play next season. Dan Hurley has not just added 6 power conference games. He has added 6 power conference games that could be played during the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. In mid-November, UConn is going to play BYU, a top 10 team, a team entering the season with a lot of buzz, in Boston at TD Garden. UConn then in November is also going to host Arizona as part of a home-and-home series, and then also be in a situation where it will play Illinois at Madison Square Garden on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. In December, UConn is going to start a home-and-home series against Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. Dan Hurley against Bill Self, 2 coaches that have won multiple national championships in their career. And then 1 week later at Madison Square Garden on December 9th, it's going to be the last 2 national champions, UConn and Florida, head-to-head in the Jimmy V Classic at the world's most famous arena. And then on December 12th, one more time, Dan Hurley against Sean Miller. These 2 went head-to-head when Sean Miller was at Arizona. Dan Hurley was at Rhode Island. Also, obviously, during the Big East days, the last couple of years when Sean Miller was at Xavier and Dan Hurley was at UConn. Those are 6 marquee games for the Huskies, who again will be a top 10 team to start next season and a team that has a legitimate chance to go to 3 Final Fours in the last 4 years under Dan Hurley. UConn scheduling like it will be again a 1 or 2 seed in the 2026 NCAA tournament. So a salute to the Carpenter, a salute to UConn basketball, a salute to that UConn administration for again maximizing the opportunities that are now in front of marquee programs, because it feels like now we are in a state of transition when it comes to early season tournaments in college basketball, with name, image, and likeness now being offered in a lot of these early season one-off games. We are seeing fewer early season tournaments. You're seeing more big games. You don't have the same buzz next season going in the Maui Invitational. You don't have the same buzz going into the Battle for Atlantis. There's a couple of other ESPN-related tournaments. There's obviously the Players Era in Las Vegas. But aside from that, it's all about these marquee games. No program has maximized that more than UConn. There have been other programs that have also done a great job. Illinois and Brad Underwood always schedule well. They have a great non-conference schedule. Tommy Lloyd in Arizona have taken no prisoners with their non-conference schedule. But UConn, again, a program that has won 2 of the last 3 national championships and a team that will start next year in the top 10, probably a little bit higher than that, has been sensational with its non-conference scheduling. Now, another thing I want to talk about is directly related to a program in the SEC, and that's Arkansas. And I'm somebody, when I am looking at teams who are returning large portions of personnel, I always tend to give those teams the benefit of the doubt. I know we live in a day and age right now where everybody loves the portal ads. Everybody seems to love the dynamic of adding people in April and May. There's a buzz. I get it. I understand it. But I'm looking at Arkansas now. I'm looking at a team that, again, had a lead comfortably over Texas Tech in the Sweet 16 before Texas Tech came back and went to the Elite Eight in overtime in San Francisco. And I'm looking at Arkansas as being undervalued a bit in the SEC. Look at what Arkansas returns. 4 players who had prominent roles on that run to the Sweet 16. DJ Wagner, 4 NCAA tournament games, about 13 points and 4 assists. About 12 points and 3.5 assists. Billy Richmond, 16 and 9 against St. John's in the round of 32. Carter Knox, in his last 2 NCAA tournament games, Texas Tech and St. John's, went for 35 and 12. And then Trevin Brazil was a steady presence up front for John Calipari as well. Those players are coming back to Arkansas, and they're also adding 2 of the top 15 freshmen in the country, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. Freshmen, more than ever, have an asterisk next to them because of the day and age we're in right now, but a college basketball isn't going to be quite as old. And Arkansas also added 2 quality veterans up front in Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan. I think Arkansas, without question, should enter next season in the discussion of being the second best team in the SEC behind Florida. You're giving Florida the benefit of the doubt, as you should, because Florida is the defending national champions. Florida brings back the quartet up front of Houck, Condon, Chinyelu, and Handlogden, and also added Boogie Flan, ironically enough, from Arkansas, and Xavier Lee from Princeton. Kentucky did well in the portal. Muhammad Diabate, I'm a big fan. Jalen Lowe is a heck of a point guard from Pitt. Did not shoot the basketball at a high level last year. Under 30% from 3. Denzel Aberdeen comes from Florida, where he was not a starter, but he was a very big part of that run to the national title. And then obviously Otego Oweh is going to return as an all-SEC first-team caliber player. I like Kentucky's pieces. I also think Kentucky has a lot of question marks. We don't know the status of Jaden Quainton's health for November, coming off the torn ACL. We don't know how Jalen Lowe is going to shoot the ball. He was a terrific point guard last year at Pitt. Didn't shoot the ball well. How is Denzel Aberdeen going to adjust to probably being a starter? I think Kentucky's going to have players make jumps. I like what I see out of Colin Chandler. I like, obviously, Otego Oweh's ability to be an all-SEC first-team caliber player and an SEC Player of the Year candidate. But I think Arkansas's returning personnel and the pieces that Arkansas is bringing in is being undervalued heading into next season. I think you can make a real case that Arkansas could be the second best team in the SEC next year, entering the year behind Florida. Now, here's something that's interesting. Sean Miller, the head coach at Texas, came out at the SEC meetings recently and talked about how things are going to be different in college basketball, especially the SEC, when you take into account that the COVID senior is no longer a thing in the sport. I went and I did the deep dive last weekend. Only 3 of the SEC's top 25 scorers from last season will return in 25-26. That is a nugget to keep in the back of your head when you're thinking about potential NCAA tournament berths. If I'm forecasting the SEC, and this is not an SEC preview, we will do that later in the summer. Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, who got a big boost with LeBaron Philon back, Tennessee, and Texas are my first 7 teams in that conference, a conference that had 14 teams, which was a record in the NCAA tournament last season. The final thing that's on my mind, it feels like we're always talking about BYU, and for good reason. I talked about last week how BYU was scheduling for a top seed in the NCAA tournament. I've talked about how this is unequivocally the most anticipated season in the history of BYU's basketball program, and how BYU should accept nothing less than the Final Four in 2026. And you should have those goals. You added A.J. DeBansa, who could be the top overall pick in 2026. You added Rob Wright from Baylor as a transfer point guard. But it feels like Richie Saunders, a proven commodity, an all Big 12 first-team player, is a forgotten piece for the Cougars when people are talking BYU basketball entering next season. And this guy wasn't just somebody who was returning from a Sweet 16 team. This guy was a technician offensively in the NCAA tournament. 3 NCAA tournament games for Saunders. 22 points a game, 25 of 42 from the field, 5 of 12 from 3, and was just an unbelievable offensive player last season. Made 79 threes, shot over 42% from 3, and make no mistake about it, next season, Richie Saunders will be an all Big 12 first-team caliber player, and I think a real candidate to be a first, second, or third-team preseason All-American. Does DeBansa bring the hype? Absolutely. He was viewed as a landscape changer for BYU because of his gravitas, his pedigree, and his ability to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. Him going to BYU, game changer. Was Rob Wright an electric get in Portal Combat? Absolutely. Rob Wright could be an All-American in 25-26. But don't forget about Richie Saunders, somebody, again, who has already proven it at the college level. And if you're asking me now, and I am not one of those people who put more than 5 people on a preseason first team for the conferences, and I will do this again later in the summer when we get into our conference previews, but if I'm looking right now at an all Big 12 preseason first team, I've got 4 locks. JT Toppin, the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year at Texas Tech, Richie Saunders from BYU, Joshua Jefferson at Iowa State, and Milos Uzan from Houston. Those 4 players all earned all Big 12 honors last season and have come back to college basketball. I'll ruminate on the 5th spot between now and the Big 12 preview. Could be Joseph Tugler, could be Emmanuel Sharp, 2 guys from Houston, could be A.J. DeBansa, could be Darren Peterson at Kansas. But we've got some time to figure all that out. And again, as you notice, I'm naming all these names for the Big 12. I'm going through the best players in the conference. I'm not naming people from Kansas. Darren Peterson is going to have an all-American type year for Kansas to be, in my opinion, a top 2 or 3 team in the Big 12 next season. And we'll continue to chew on that as the summer progresses. Want to hear from you about your thoughts on Arkansas, your thoughts on what Dan Hurley's doing at UConn, and also your thoughts on Richie Saunders being undervalued, plus anything else you want to talk about right now in the world of college basketball. In just a couple of minutes, we'll also hear from Texas A&M's Bucky McMillan. John Rothstein here on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. I'm with you when we return.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
John Rothstein back here on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. Again, an official name for this podcast is coming shortly. Also, you will be able to get us by audio on Spotify coming. So we appreciate you hanging with us as we get all that stuff sorted out. But want to hear from you now, the college basketball fan, because that is who I serve 365 days a year. Get into the chat. Leave us some questions. Now let's get going. Mark Finkelstein says, John, surprised by your top 10. Just think that the teams like Purdue, UConn, and Houston, who have their nucleus back, have a huge advantage over St. John's, BYU, and others. Thoughts? Look, I'm totally with you on retention. Purdue and Houston, I have 1-2. UConn is bringing in a new point guard in Silas Demery, and UConn also lost its best player in Liam McNeely. Now, with all that said, with all the stuff that UConn struggled with at times last season, their guard play was not at the level that Dan Hurley liked it, obviously, to be at, coming off a back-to-back national championship with Tristan Newton and Andre Jackson being at the point of attack. We got to see how Demery performs in UConn's culture, which is the best culture in college basketball. And we got to see what that 3 spot looks like because you're losing Liam McNeely. Now, with all that said, UConn took Florida to the wire in the round of 32 and lost by 2 points and was 8 of 29 from 3. UConn could, without question, go 3 for 4 and win the national championship in 2026. Keep your questions coming here in the chat. Flash wants to know, John, what is the main difference in you ranking Arkansas ahead of Kentucky? You know, I just think it's a little bit more faith in the returning core of Arkansas. Arkansas went just as far last year as Kentucky did in the NCAA tournament. I love Arkansas's freshmen, even though they're freshmen. But again, this is what I like to do over the summer. I like to watch tape on people. I'm a big Darius Acuff fan. I'm a big Malik Thomas fan. And I like the fact that there's guys back. Carter Knox, was electric in the Sweet 16. Billy Richmond was electric in the round of 32. And I like Kentucky's pieces. I'm an Aberdeen fan. I felt last year that Aberdeen was a 6th starter for Florida. I'm a huge fan of Jalen Lowe. But we got to see this clay molded, and there's also the concern about Jaden Quaintance being completely healthy. This is the bottom line. Questions continue here. Retro KG says, John, how about the Bearcats of Cincinnati? You know, Cincinnati to me is a team that I have ranked in the top 40. I like the returning nucleus that Cincinnati has. I also love the addition of Chom from UCF, but we have been down this road before with Wes Miller and Cincinnati. Everybody loves to celebrate who they get. Everybody likes to be excited and optimistic about the season. I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this now about 20 years at the national level. I have been doing this, I think I've got to count, but I went to CBS in 2010. So now this is over a decade and a half at CBS Sports for me covering college basketball. Everybody is excited about their gets in the summer. Everybody loves their team when you start talking to them throughout July and August about summer workouts. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's all fun and games until somebody loses a bye game. Cincinnati hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since 2019. 2019. They were close in 1920 when John Brennan was the coach, but there was no NCAA tournament. And that team, again, was dragged to the bubble by 3 players, Jaron Cumberland, Keith Williams, and Trey Scott, who were recruited and played for Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin, the UCLA coach, was the last coach to lead Cincinnati to the NCAA tournament in 2019, and the Bearcats have not been close since. And let's face it, aside from 1920, the Bearcats really haven't been near the bubble on Selection Sunday. Just a fact of life. Just a fact of life. Riley wants to know, John, how does Desmond Claude impact Washington? Well, Riley, if you follow me on social media, I moved Washington into the top 30 in the Rothstein 45 last night. I posted it today. Danny Sprinkle's team, Washington, has a chance to be one of the most improved power conference teams in college basketball next season. Desmond Claude and Wesley Yates come from USC. They've produced at the high major level. Lathan Somerville is a really, really good piece from Rutgers. I'm a fan of what they did in other areas. Zoom Diallo is back. I think you have to look at Washington now as a top 25, top 30 team entering next season. I think that's a fact of life. Hawk Talk Podcast wants to know, John, can Billy Lang get the St. Joe's Hawks past the curse of Phil Martelli and back into the NCAA tournament? This is what I'll tell you about Billy Lang. He's recruited exceptionally well at St. Joe's. St. Joe's has had opportunities to advance into the Atlantic 10 tournament. Last year, 2 years ago, 2024, was very close to going to the title game, came up short. This year, a little bit disappointing how early St. Joe's went out of the bracket in the A10 tournament. Rasheer Fleming is going to be a first-round pick. Eric Reynolds gone. Xavier Brown, following his stepfather, Justin Scott, who's now an assistant to Oklahoma. He'll play for Porter Moser. He'll start in the Big 12. And it's just really tough if you are a non-power conference team now and you are trying to be in a scenario where you are trying to get in that large berth, because it feels like it's next to impossible. The Mountain West and St. Mary's feel like the only real programs that have cracked the code in this landscape. San Diego State found a way last year. Now, a big reason why, because of San Diego State's performance in the Players era. San Diego State got that win against Houston. It was a game changer all the way to Selection Sunday, got them into the field. You look at the Mountain West always finds a way, as does Randy Bennett, who I covered during the NCAA tournament in Cleveland with Spiro Ditas and Jim Spanarkel. St. Mary's found a way to beat Vanderbilt in the round of 32. And then fell just, short to Alabama. Alabama was better in the round of 32. It's a great game, that St. Mary's Vanderbilt game. An awesome game. Davis Warren wants to know, John, what are your expectations for the SMU Mustangs in year 2 of Andy Enfield? Well, look, Andy Enfield did a great job in his first year at SMU. They were the ultimate chalk team, SMU, because they didn't really have any good wins. They didn't really have any bad losses. That's a byproduct, I think, of the ACC not having a lot of opportunities. But there's definitely a feeling of optimism around SMU, and there's a hope that SMU could maybe be competitive for a bubble berth or a bubble opportunity. So, I'd love to get to the state of Texas, and I'd love to see all these teams practice. But I'm just trying to find out if I can squeeze this into a week, because you have to go to Lubbock to see Texas Tech, a top 10 team with JT Toppin. But then you got to be in Austin, Baylor, Houston, A&M, and then also you'd like to do TCU and SMU. That feels like more than a week. There's probably a way you could do it if practice schedules work, but it's something I'm thinking about. This is only June 9th, but I'm thinking about that as it pertains to the preseason. Now, speaking of Texas A&M hired a new coach. He is Bucky McMillan, and he joins us coming up next on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page with John Rothstein.
Critics are buzzing about the new season of Yellow Jackets.
This is not healthy.
Yellow Jackets' new season now streaming on the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.
Now, welcome in the newly minted head coach of the Texas A&M Aggies. He is Bucky McMillan. And Bucky, welcome. But before we get into your basketball program, you need to answer a question that you've ignored since you've become a head coach. How did Henry Ward McMillan III become Bucky?
I was called that since birth, man. My dad's name was Bucky. I don't even know why that's not on my birth certificate, because they knew they were going to call me that. My dad was called that, so I don't know. If it wasn't hard to get a name change, I might do it.
When was the last time somebody called you Henry?
I don't think they ever have till today. So thank you for that, for spilling it out there, man. But
Okay.
I think my dad was named after a baseball player, Bucky Harris.
Okay.
Back in the day. So there you go.
Well, Bucky, this has been a meteoric rise here for you over the last half decade. A little over 5 years ago, you were still a high school coach. Does life feel like a movie right now for Bucky McMillan?
It's gone so fast, I hadn't had time to really think. But, I mean, basketball is basketball. Someone asked me that the other day. I mean, coaching at Texas A&M is awesome, but still the same feeling I had coaching JV basketball in terms of you just treat every job like that's your group, that's your team, and let's go. So I know when I coached JV basketball, it was like, this is the world I live in, and this is the most important thing in my sports world. And now, obviously, the SEC is the most important thing in my world, and Texas A&M being my focus.
If your life was a movie, who would play Bucky McMillan?
What's the guy on Punk'd? What's his name?
I don't know. I don't watch punk. I watch stuff that happened in the 90s and the 80s.
Ashton Kutcher, that guy. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
that.
He's from that movie, No Strings Attached. I like that.
Okay.
Now, Bucky, you were entrenched in the Birmingham community before you got the Samford job. You were a very successful high school head coach in that community before you got that job. So that was a pretty seamless transition. What was it like, though, connecting being the Samford head coach to then getting the opportunity at Texas A&M?
There's a lot of similarities in Texas to the Alabama people, like real chill, down-to-earth people. I love College Station. Like, it's just an easy town to kind of acclimate to. Like, people are welcoming. You know, it's great being undefeated. When you're undefeated, everybody loves you. So I had to pay for a dinner yet, so I need to push this season back as long as possible. But no, it's a great place, and I think it's got everything it takes to win in every sport here and have success in every sport. You know, the new era of college athletics, I don't think every university is going to be able to do that. They're going to kind of have to pick and choose. You know, this place can compete for championships in every sport in the SEC, I believe.
So you obviously were following all the coaching changes in college basketball, and then, Buzz Williams late in the carousel opted to leave College Station to go to Maryland. When the job opened, did you say to yourself, I think this is one I'm going to have a chance at?
You never know. I mean, it's in the South in a way. You never know how the dominoes will fall. I know it was one that I would have to take, and I would want to talk to our athletic director. Obviously, the coaching carousel moves, and there's opportunities you're involved with. And my athletic director at Samford's a guy named Martin Newton, who's a big guy in my life. And there's been jobs I've asked him about. He said, I don't know about that. Besides the money, I don't know about that one for you. But when we started talking about Texas A&M, it's like, I don't want to see you go. But, man, that's a place that you could go, and I think you'd be really, really successful there. So when he kind of gave me the go-ahead that, that would be a place that he knew that I would may fit me, I was, all in to wanting to be out here.
Well, one of the things that's attached to you, regardless of where you coach and regardless of what level you coach at, is the term Bucky Ball. What exactly is Bucky Ball?
So it's funny. Someone asked me that the other day from out here. So when I was coaching high school basketball, in Alabama back in the day, all the coaches kind of in the suburban schools, they played in the 30s and 40s, really slow, ran the flex, no shot clock, shoot it after a minute. And I was committed to if I coached, we were never going to do that. We were going to trap until they shot the ball, shoot as quickly as possible, take a lot of threes. And so some the old school coaches in the area used to say it as a negative, right? It wasn't disciplined basketball if you play fast and shoot threes. So they're just playing Bucky Ball over there, that kind of mindset, right? And then we started winning a lot, and then it became known as a positive in the community that I coach in. And basically up-tempo basketball, shoot a lot of threes. You see more and more of it today, but, 15 years ago, a three-point – people thought a three-point shot might be a bad shot, right? And, we've always been a high-volume three-point shooting team, up-tempo team.
What coaches did Bucky McMillan study to learn his own offensive system?
So I played for a great college coach in Dwayne Reball, who was the coach of Birmingham Southern. They were in the Big South at the time. He won 2 NAI national championships before that. And he was kind of the same way. Early three-point shooting before it was popular, spacing the floor. And so study him a lot. There's some college coaches now. They're my competitors. I can't say too much about. I can't hurt myself in the recruiting game. But there's some guys that I'm friends with in the business that kind of one of them had a similar route to me. Nate at Alabama. I'll go ahead and say it. And so I've watched them analytically, and we're kind of in the analytics before the analytics were the analytics.
Yeah. Bucky, getting an opportunity to be an SEC head coach, especially with the SEC conference right now, just on an upward trajectory, is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And usually these opportunities come when a team, goes on a little bit of a run in the NCAA tournament or has, major success in March. Your team a year ago was on the cusp of beating Kansas in the round of 64 and came up just short. I'm curious, after that game was over, did you, even though you were very proud of the way your team played, feel like you left an opportunity on the table?
It's a controversial ending to the game. If people remember the game.
Yeah.
Right. But, I guess the feeling was we all saw where the kind of the NIL and the transfer portal was going. That, these last 2 years you've seen no mid-majors in the Sweet 16 pretty much at all. And so I do think that we were right there to advance to the next round. Could have gone either way. But I do think that the times have changed a lot, and they're going to have to change for mid-major coaches, because it used to be you had to go win that game in the tournament, maybe win another game. But you're just not going to see that hardly at all anymore based on the talent gap because of the portal.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the last 2 years, this is the first time this ever happened where you don't have those runs.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, from my standpoint, I wasn't thinking about it like that. I hated it for our group.
Yeah.
But just in general, taking me outside of this, for all the mid-major coaches, I think ADs are going to have the courage that if they see talent, they can recognize it.
Yeah.
And sustain success. It won't be about those, the Shaka Smart run to the Final Four.
Right.
You're just not going to see that as much anymore, because a lot of those players that helped them get there are going to be taken away, as we know. And that's kind of what happened to us. We had this past year, we had 8 of our top 9 players that took us to almost beat Kansas in the NCAA tournament. They weren't there the next year, this past year.
So what are those conversations like when you have a roster at Samford and you build an NCAA tournament team, and then as soon as the season's over, those guys are probably going in the portal? What's the dialogue like?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you can't even – there's the financial piece to it, and then there's the basketball piece to it. You can't even argue with the financial piece. Like, you're not even going to – that's their decision. Like, you can't who am I to talk about their financial, what it means in their world?
Right.
Like, I mean, so someone $10,000 can be another $500,000. Well, they got to weigh what that means to them personally, the difference.
Yep.
The basketball piece, you just got to evaluate that. Like, what are their goals? Like,
yep.
Sometimes, you can look up and the players transferring up from mid-major, some of them hadn't had much success at all. Others have been very good. So where do they fit in? And so now I'm on the other side of this, right? So, like, I was at Samford trying to keep players there, saying, hey, bigger role, more opportunity, more value when you leave. Now you're on the other side of this talking to mid-major players, talking about bigger conference, how we travel, how we operate, the big stage.
Yeah.
So I've been on both sides of it, and it's an interesting piece. I see good and bad in both sides.
What are your impressions, Bucky, of the roster that you've put together at Texas A&M?
Did as good as we could possibly do based on when we got hired. I think I saw some article based on, I think we were the last Power 5 job. I guess Samford was the only job after ours, right?
Yep.
And I think I saw something because of everyone thought was so in fear of the April 7th deadline of the judge that I think we got here officially on the 8th maybe. And I think I saw something that 81 of the top 100 portal players were already taken, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So I think our staff, when we got everybody in place, the people of A&M supporting us with the way we had to go about this. I'm not saying that this will be the best team we ever assemble, but what I will say is I'm very proud of what we were able to do based on when you're looking at the supply and demand chain at the time we got hired.
Well, a number of guys on your roster don't just have power conference experience, but they have big time, power conference experience. Federico is a guy who's been on multiple teams that have played in the NCAA tournament. Rylan Griffin had some big games at Alabama when he was there. They went obviously on deep runs in the NCAA tournament. We also know that Mackenzie McBacco was a 5-star recruit out of high school. So what most excites you about the talent that you've assembled in College Station?
I think we're a good shooting team. And so that's what I see when I'm watching. We have a lot of good shooting. And when you have that, you're capable of beating anybody. You want more than that, obviously, or you're capable of losing anybody, right? But I certainly think it's a team that you'll see make 20-plus threes in some games this year. And if it became between one or the other, like a team that, hey, could lose to some teams, but also a team that could knock off the best team in the country, give me that team, because we all know to make a run in the tournament, you're going to have to pull that. And we know what this is. I mean, basketball is a postseason sport, right? I mean, that's what it is, a tournament sport. So if we can do our job, get into the tournament, and it's your path, right? And you just got to have one of those 2 games where you shoot it extremely well. And these guys we have, they're capable. We have multiple guys I think can shoot 40+% from three-point line.
Well, that's a nice luxury to have as a coach, and that's a positive. And you're going to need all of those shooters, because you're going into a conference right now where 14 teams last year made the NCAA tournament, and 9 of the 16 sitting head coaches have at least taken a team to the Elite Eight in March Madness. What are your feelings knowing that you're a couple of months away from being a head coach and competing in the SEC?
It's a great league to be in because of what you said. I mean, your goal is to get in the NCAA tournament, and your goal is to win the NCAA tournament. And if you can compete at a high level in the SEC, which is the best league in college basketball last year and arguably the best league ever assembled, you got a chance, certainly when the majority of the teams are making it to the tournament. But I mean, you look at it, I think it was, to correct me if I'm wrong, was it, you're the stat guy, you know it all, 14-16 in the tournament, 7 in the Sweet 16, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Maybe 4 Elite Eight, 2 Final Four.
I have to go double check, but yeah, I mean, Kentucky and Tennessee played, yeah.
I'm just trying to one-up you, man. No one does it. I'm just trying to – we're live here to do it. So anyway, point being that if you're in this league, I mean, iron sharpens iron. And, if you can compete at a high level in this league, it's special. But if you get in the tournament after being in this league, you're going to be tournament ready.
Yeah. Well, part of being tournament ready is playing a great non-conference schedule. And now we know how important games are in November and December. You're going to be in the ACC SEC Challenge. You have a home game against UCF. You're also going to start a home-and-home series at Oklahoma State. Other than those 3 games, what crumbs can Bucky McMillan share on Texas A&M's non-conference schedule for the 25-26 season?
I wish I could. I know we got some stuff still in legal. I know Coach Buzz Williams, he was obviously here before. He had some games scheduled in with some of the non-Power 5s that I know that we're down the road with. But I wish I could share more. Is there any more I could share? No, I don't think we have all these contracts together. But
are you planning on adding some Power Conference marquee games to those 3 that I mentioned? Yeah,
so I do know this. Teams kind of go with some go with the 9 and 4 model, 4 Power 5s, 9, and some go with the 8 and 5. We're going with the 8 and 5, so we'll play 5 Power 5s total, right? I do know that, and then 8 non-Power 5s. So I can't share that, but you'll be the first to know, man. Text me, and I'll let you know when it's done.
We look forward to that, obviously, as Bucky Ball now is in the SEC. But Bucky, let's wrap on this. I know that you came to Texas A&M because you wanted to be in a multi-bid league. You wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. Based on the personnel that you've assembled after one shooting workout, is that a realistic goal for the Aggies here coming up in 2026?
Yeah, I certainly think it is. I mean, you're talking about A&M. People forget sometimes that 3 years ago, A&M was playing for an SEC championship game. It was in the SEC championship game, right? And like you said, 14 to 16 teams got in, and this is just going to be about this group coming together, right? If they come together, lots of new faces. I always expect to be in the NCAA tournament. When I was at mid-major, I expected to be in the NCAA tournament. I dang sure expect to be in at Texas A&M, and I expect when we get there to win there. So I think all these guys we've recruited think the same way.
He's Bucky McMillan. He's the new head coach at Texas A&M. He's put together a really good roster, and Bucky Ball isn't coming to College Station. It's arrived in College Station. Just ask anybody who watched that shooting workout. Bucky, congratulations on the job. Really appreciate a couple minutes, and as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me. Can we get a gig from you?
No, that would be showing a non-objective approach, but I will definitely be covering your team with serious interest.
I always put you on the spot like that. Text me. I'm gonna get you those scheduled dates. So.
Okay, I appreciate it. That was Texas A&M head coach Bucky McMillan. We will be back after this.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'd like to thank Texas A&M head coach Bucky McMillan for joining us here on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. I'm John Rothstein. Before we get out of here, 3 good nuggets. Let's look at the Big Ten right now by the numbers. Big Ten returning scoring by percentage. Purdue returns 86% of its scoring. Ohio State is next at 59. UCLA is 55.5. Illinois is 52.1. Nebraska is at 48.1. Oregon, 48%. Those are the ones that are close to 50% or above. Northwestern also at 47.2. So Purdue, again, the team that I have as my number 1 team entering this season, returns 86% of its scoring from a squad that lost on the final play in the Sweet 16 to Houston. Nugget number 2, a changing of the guard. I talked about this earlier in the show when it pertains to the SEC. Only 3 of the SEC's top 25 scorers from last season are returning. Josh Hubbard from Mississippi State, Otega Owe from Kentucky, and also Mark Mitchell from Missouri. Nugget number 3, a sprinkle of hope. Also touched on this in our chat portion of the show. Washington has quietly put together a major transfer class under Danny Sprinkle, and I'm seeing right now a major jump in year 2 under Danny Sprinkle for the Huskies. Washington regained, in my opinion, national relevance over the weekend by getting Desmond Claude. Want to thank Texas A&M head coach Bucky McMillan for joining us here on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. We'll be back, as always, with another episode later in the week. I'm John Rothstein, reminding you this is only June.